The ability to observe without reacting is the highest form of intelligence. My friends, let me tell you something. Your silence is driving them crazy. They never expected it. They thought they had you figured out, thought they could pull your strings like a puppet. But now, they're spiraling, stuck in a loop of their own ego, choking on the silence they once took for granted. And guess what? You're doing nothing, just sitting back, watching them fumble, while your absence does all the talking. That's power. That's control. That's Stoic Revenge. Before we go deeper, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe, because trust me, you don't want to miss what I'm about to reveal. Hey folks, picture this. Imagine you've been feeding a stray cat every day. It shows up, tail high, rubbing against your leg, expecting the food you always provide. But one day, you stop. No more food, no more attention. What does the cat do? At first, it doesn't care. It waits. It assumes you'll give in. Then frustration kicks in. It starts meowing louder, demanding what it's used to. And when it realizes the food isn't coming, it panics. It starts searching, pacing, unable to handle the sudden emptiness where comfort used to be. That's exactly what's happening to them right now. They were so sure of you, so confident that no matter how they treated you, you'd always be there. They got comfortable. They fed off your energy, your words, your emotions. And now they're starving. Here's what they don't tell you. Most people aren't afraid of losing a person. They're afraid of losing control over that person. And the moment you went silent, you took that control away. They expected anger. They expected a reaction. They expected proof that they still mattered. But what did you give them? Nothing. And let me tell you, nothing is louder than any words you could ever say. See, some folks think silence is weak. They think if you're quiet, you've lost. That's a lie. That's what they want you to believe. But real power, real control, it's in not reacting. It's in letting them sit in the discomfort of their own thoughts. Because that's where the real suffering begins. Not in the loss, but in the realization that they no longer have access to you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That means you don't beg, you don't explain, you don't try to make them see what they lost. You become so unreachable, so unbothered, so untouchable that they have no choice but to feel your absence like a knife to the gut. And let me tell you, folks, this is when the tables turn. This is when the late nights hit them different, when their mind starts replaying every word you ever said, when they check their phone more times than they'd ever admit, hoping, praying to see your name. But you're gone, and the silence, it's eating them alive. Right now, they're stuck in their own ego, too proud to reach out, too stubborn to admit they miss you, but suffering all the same. And guess what? That's not your problem. You're not their emotional punching bag. You're not their backup plan. You're the lesson they never saw coming. You see, folks, silence isn't just the absence of words. It's the presence of power. And the moment you understand that, the moment you own it, you become unstoppable. No one can break you. No one can manipulate you. No one can use your emotions against you ever again. So do me a favor. Drop this in the comments. My silence is their starvation. Let them feel it. Let them miss you. Let them learn the hard way that once you're gone for good. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what I'm about to break down next, it's gonna change everything. Number 1, they crave attention like oxygen, and you just cut off their supply. An overfed ego is a dangerous thing, but take away its food, and it will wither away into nothing. My friends, let's get real. Some people don't just want attention, they need it like oxygen. It keeps them alive. It feeds their confidence, their control, their illusion that they're always in charge. And for the longest time, you were the one supplying it. But now you've slammed the door shut, and they're gasping. Imagine this. You walk into a room, and there's a giant fire burning in the center. It's roaring, crackling, demanding to be fed. And for so long, you've been tossing in wood. Your words, your energy, your reactions. But what happens when you stop? What happens when you fold your arms, sit back, and do nothing? The fire doesn't go out instantly. It fights. It flares up, desperate for more fuel. But over time, the flames die down, the heat fades, and all that's left is cold, grey ash. That's what your silence is doing to them right now. They thought you'd always be there, ready to throw another log on the fire. They believed you needed them as much as they needed your attention. But now they're staring at the embers, wondering why the flames aren't coming back. And I know what some of you might be thinking, but what if they don't care? What if they're happy without me? What if I was never that important to them in the first place? Let me stop you right there. That's fear talking, not truth. If they truly didn't care, they wouldn't have played these mind games to begin with. They wouldn't have tested your patience, pushed your limits, strung you along just to see if you'd stay. That's not the behavior of someone indifferent. That's someone who thrives on control. And here's the part they don't want you to realize. When you take that control away, they feel it. They might not admit it. They might pretend everything's fine, post pictures, laugh louder, act like their life hasn't skipped a beat. But inside, there's a storm. Because silence does something no argument ever can. It forces them to sit with their own thoughts, no distractions, no validation, no proof that they still matter. And let me tell you, that is a pain most people aren't built to handle. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what you're doing now. You're pulling back your energy, taking back your power, refusing to be a pawn in their ego-driven game. But I won't lie to you, my friends. This isn't easy. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, moments when the silence feels heavy, when your fingers hover over your phone, tempted to send just one message. Because deep down, a part of you still craves closure, still wants to know if they ever really cared. But let me ask you this. What would that message change? Would it give you peace? Would it bring back the respect they stole from you? Or would it just hand them another piece of your energy, another log for their fire? The truth is, silence isn't just about punishing them. It's about freeing yourself. It's about standing up and saying, "I will not be someone's emotional fuel." It's about realizing that your worth isn't measured by how much someone else notices you. It's measured by how much you value yourself. And let me tell you, folks, once you step into that power, once you truly embrace the strength of silence, everything changes. You stop chasing people who don't appreciate you. You stop fearing the loss of those who never truly valued you. And, most importantly, You stop feeding egos that only drain you in return. So right now, I want you to declare it. Drop this in the comments. My silence is my power. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you are done being a source of energy for those who don't deserve it. And trust me, my friends, if you think this is powerful, just wait until you hear what comes next. Because if they're this lost now, if they're this desperate for your attention today, just imagine what happens when they realize they have zero control left. Stay with me. It only gets better from here. Number 2, their mind becomes their worst enemy. The ego is like a beast. Feed it, and it grows. Starve it, and it will devour itself. My friends, right now, their mind is their worst enemy. They don't even realize it yet, but they are trapped in a battle they can't win. And guess who put them there? You. Not by yelling, not by explaining, not by begging, but by doing nothing at all. See, most people assume that when you go silent, the other person just moves on. That's the biggest lie ever told. The truth? The moment you stopped feeding their ego, their mind started running wild. Imagine locking someone in a room with only their thoughts. No distractions, no noise, just silence. At first, they might be fine. They might tell themselves they're okay, that they never needed you anyway. But as the hours pass, the silence starts pressing in. Their own thoughts become louder, heavier, impossible to escape. And suddenly, they're drowning in a sea of their own doubts, regrets, and unanswered questions. That's exactly what's happening to them right now. They didn't just lose you, they lost their control over you. And that loss, it's creeping up on them in ways they never expected. I know what some of you are thinking, but they look so happy. They're out with friends, posting pictures, acting like life hasn't skipped a beat. What if they really don't care? Let me stop you right there. That's not happiness. That's panic in disguise. They're trying to distract themselves. They're throwing every possible noise into their life to cover up the silence that's slowly eating them alive. But here's the thing about distractions. They work during the day. When they're laughing, drinking, keeping busy, they can pretend they don't care. But then night falls. The noise fades. The phone is silent. They check their notifications, and guess what? No message from you. That's when the war in their head starts. The memories hit. The conversations they once ignored suddenly feel important. The messages they brushed off now feel valuable. And the worst part, they have no idea if you're thinking about them at all. The white bear effect. That's what psychologists call it. The harder you try not to think about something, the more it takes over your mind. If I tell you right now, don't think of a white bear, what happens? Boom. There it is, front and center in your mind. And that's you to them. The more they tell themselves, I don't care about them anymore, the more their mind rebels. Suddenly, you're everywhere. A song, a phrase, a place. Everything reminds them of you. They keep trying to push the thought away, but it just keeps coming back, stronger, sharper, more painful. Because here's the truth. When someone truly doesn't care, they don't have to keep telling themselves that they don't care. They just don't think about it at all. But if they're fighting their thoughts, if they're trying to forget you, then you've already won. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Right now, their imagination is their prison. Because they don't just miss you, They don't just wonder about you. They are obsessing over the fact that they have no idea what's going on in your mind. And nothing destroys an ego faster than uncertainty. They used to feel in control. They knew how to get a reaction out of you. They knew exactly what to say, what to do, to make you prove you still cared. But now they don't even know where they stand. And that, my friends, is the beginning of their downfall. But listen, I'm not here to tell you this will be easy, because I know the temptation is there, the urge to check on them, to send just one message, to see if they're thinking about you. But let me ask you this. What would that message do? Would it make them respect you more? Would it bring back the dignity they stole from you? Or would it just feed the fire you worked so hard to put out? Because right now, they're starving. And that's exactly where they need to be. So do me a favor, drop this in the comments. They are trapped in their own mind, and I am free. Say it, own it, show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you have stepped out of the game, that you are no longer under their control. And trust me, if you think this is powerful, just wait until you see what's coming next. Because the deeper their obsession grows, the more desperate they become. And when that moment hits, oh my friends, that's when things really start to unravel. Stay with me. This is only getting better. Number 3, they thought you needed them. Now they're questioning everything. The illusion of control is the ego's favorite lie. Take that away, and all that's left is panic. My friends, let's be real. Most people don't realize the power of silence until it's too late. They walk around thinking they've got everything figured out, thinking you were the one who needed them, thinking that no matter what, you'd always be there, waiting, hoping, proving your worth. But now their world has flipped upside down. And guess what? They are not handling it well. Because here's the brutal truth. They thought they were in control. They thought they were the one making decisions, calling the shots, deciding when and how you'd react. But your silence, it shattered that illusion. Imagine this. You're playing a game of tug-of-war. They pull, you pull back. They push, you push back. That's the dynamic they're used to, knowing that no matter what, they could always get a response out of you. But one day, instead of pulling back, you just let go. And what happens when someone is yanking with all their strength and suddenly there's nothing resisting? They fall hard. That's what's happening to them right now. They expected you to fight for them, to chase, to prove that they still mattered. But instead, they were met with silence. And let me tell you something. Nothing is more terrifying than being ignored by someone who used to care. Now, I know some of you are still battling that little voice in your head. But what if they never cared to begin with? What if they really have moved on? What if my silence doesn't affect them at all? Let me ask you this. If they were truly unaffected, why did they expect you to react? Why did they need you to reach out? Why did they believe they could walk away and still have you right there, waiting? Because deep down, they were counting on your emotions to keep them relevant. And when you took that away, boom, the fantasy fell apart. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And right now, their thoughts are running dark. At first, they told themselves they didn't care. They convinced themselves that you'd crack first, that you were just playing a game and would eventually come crawling back. But then, nothing happened. Days passed, then weeks, then maybe even months, and still, nothing from you. That's when doubt starts creeping in. That's when they start checking their phone a little too often, scrolling through old messages, looking at old photos, wondering why you haven't broken yet. See, they always believed you needed them more than they needed you. And your silence, it's forcing them to ask the one question they never wanted to face. What if I was never as important to them as I thought? And let me tell you, that question hits harder than anything else, because the moment they even consider that possibility, their entire reality starts crumbling. The confidence they once had, shaky. The control they once felt, gone. The ego they built on the assumption that you needed them, starving. And here's where it gets really interesting. At first, they'll pretend they don't care. They'll put on a show, laughing louder, posting more, surrounding themselves with people just to prove to themselves, not to you, that they're totally fine. But that's all smoke and mirrors, my friends, because here's what they didn't expect. When someone truly moves on, when someone is truly indifferent, there is no announcement, no drama, no final words, just silence. And that silence, it eats away at them. They'll start wondering if they misjudged you, if they underestimated your strength, if they were just a temporary chapter in your life while you were the whole book in theirs. And that's when the real suffering begins. Because now, they don't just miss you, they miss the power they thought they had over you. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." And right now, their biggest want is something they can't have, you. But listen, I won't sugarcoat it. I know this isn't easy. I know the silence can feel like a test, like a battle between your emotions and your logic, because a part of you still wonders if they ever truly cared, if they ever really valued you. But here's the truth. You don't need them to answer that. You are the answer. The fact that you had the strength to walk away, to cut off their supply, to put yourself first, that is all the proof you need. So do me a favor, drop this in the comments. I let go, and they fell. Let them feel it. Let them wonder. Let them realize that this time, it's different. And trust me, my friends, if you think they're struggling now, just wait until they realize their distractions aren't working anymore. Stay with me. This is only getting better. 4. Their social media flexing is just a cover-up. My friends, let's talk about something obvious yet overlooked. When someone is truly happy, they don't need to prove it. They don't need to broadcast it, to show off, to make sure you see it. They just live it. But when someone is trying to convince themselves that they're fine, that's when the performance begins. And right now, that's exactly what they're doing, putting on a show, hoping you're still watching. The loud laughter, the parties, the perfectly curated social media posts. It's all one giant distraction, not for you, but for them. Because deep down, they're terrified. Terrified that their ego was wrong. Terrified that they miscalculated. Terrified that you're actually gone this time. Imagine this. You're at a poker table, and they're the player who just made a bad bet. They thought they were holding all the cards. They thought they had the upper hand. But now, their bluff is being called, and they're trying everything to keep a straight face. They're throwing chips on the table, raising the stakes, pretending they're in control. But inside, they're panicking. They're hoping you'll fold first, hoping you'll break and reach out, hoping their little act will pull you back in. But what they don't realize, you're not playing anymore. And that realization, it's going to hit them like a truck. See, people who rely on control can't handle true uncertainty. They expect predictability. They expect patterns. They expect the cycle to repeat itself. That's why, right now, they're doing what they've always done. Putting on a show, making sure you see them moving on, making sure you know they're happier than ever. But here's the truth they don't want to admit. If they were really over you, they wouldn't be checking if you were watching. They wouldn't be trying so hard to get a reaction. The louder they laugh, the more desperate they are. The more they post, the emptier they feel. The more they act like life is perfect, the more it's falling apart behind closed doors. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And right now, their thoughts are poisoned. Poisoned by doubt, by regret, by the slow realization that your silence isn't a game. It's the truth. Because here's something most people never understand. Silence isn't about ignoring someone. It's about showing them that you don't need to acknowledge them anymore. And that burns deeper than any insult, any argument, any fight. It forces them to confront the one thing they never prepared for, irrelevance. But I know how this works. I know some of you are watching them, seeing their posts, hearing about their new and exciting life, and wondering, what if they really have moved on? What if I was the only one suffering? What if I made a mistake? Let me stop you right there, because this is where most people break. This is where most people give in, reach out, try to get answers that don't even matter anymore. But not you. Not this time. Because here's what you need to understand. This isn't about them. It never was. This is about you reclaiming your power. You don't need to prove anything to them. You don't need to match their energy. You don't need to play their game. You need to stand firm in your silence and let time do the exposing. Because trust me, my friends, time always reveals the truth. And right now, their distractions, their little performance, it's temporary. The crowd will leave, the party will end, the lights will dim. And then they'll be left alone with the one thing they can't escape, themselves. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And right now, they thought they knew you. They thought they could predict your next move. They thought you'd always be there, reacting, proving, chasing. But they were wrong. And that's the part they never saw coming. Because real power isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't seek validation. Real power is in walking away and letting the silence do all the talking. So do me a favor, drop this in the comments. Their distractions can't erase my absence. Say it, own it, and let them feel it. Because if you think they're struggling now, just wait. Just wait until they realize that no matter how loud they scream into the void, they're only met with silence. And that is when the real panic sets in. Stay with me. This only gets better. Number 5. The more they chase distractions, the more they feel your absence. No amount of noise can silence the thoughts they are trying to escape. My friends, let's expose a harsh truth. People don't run toward distractions because they're happy. They run because they're afraid of the silence. And right now, they're running full speed, doing everything they can to drown out the emptiness you left behind. They're going out more, surrounding themselves with new people, throwing themselves into work, hobbies, anything to keep their mind busy. But here's the part they never considered. The faster they run, the harder the crash. Imagine a swimmer caught in a rip current. The more they thrash, the more they exhaust themselves, the more they panic. But no matter how hard they fight, the ocean is still in control. That's exactly what's happening to them right now. They think if they just keep moving, keep distracting themselves, they'll outrun the thoughts creeping up on them. But no one can outrun their own mind. And once the distractions fade, once the noise dies down, they're going to be left drowning in their own regrets. At first, they might convince themselves they're fine. They'll tell themselves, "I don't care. I'm moving on. I've got better things to focus on." And for a while, it might even feel true. New people, new places, new excitement. It all seems like proof that they've left you behind. But what they don't realize, they're not replacing you. They're avoiding you. And avoidance is just delayed suffering. Because no matter how many distractions they pile up, they can't erase the emptiness your silence has created. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly why you are winning right now. Because instead of running, instead of distracting, instead of grasping for anything that fills the void, you sat in your silence. You faced it. You owned it. And they're doing everything they can to avoid it. That's the difference between someone who is truly healing and someone who is just trying to fake it. But I know what some of you are thinking. If they're so affected, why don't they just admit it? Why don't they just reach out? Let me tell you why. Because their ego won't let them. They are trapped in their own pride. They don't want to be the first one to break. They don't want to admit that maybe, just maybe, they were wrong about you. So instead, they bury themselves in distractions, hoping that if they just keep busy enough, the need to reach out will disappear. But that's not how it works. See, the funny thing about avoidance is that it only makes the problem bigger. Right now, they might be laughing with friends, traveling, meeting new people, but eventually the nights will get quiet, the distractions will slow down. And in those moments, in the stillness, they will feel your absence more than ever. And that's when the suffering really begins. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Right now, their imagination is becoming their own worst enemy. Because the moment the distractions stop, the questions start. What if I misjudged them? What if they never needed me the way I thought? What if I was just a temporary chapter in their life, while they were the whole book in mine? And that, my friends, that is the exact moment their ego starts to crack. But let me be clear, this isn't about hoping they suffer. This isn't about revenge. This is about letting reality do its job. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to chase, explain, or prove anything. Because the more they try to escape, the harder the truth will hit when it finally catches up to them. And when that happens, it's going to break them in ways they never expected. So, do me a favor, drop this in the comments. The more they run, the harder the fall. Say it, own it, let them feel it. Because if you think their distractions are working now, just wait. Just wait until they realize that no matter how far they run, your silence is always waiting for them at the finish line. Stay with me. This is only getting better. Number 6. Their ego can't accept that you're unbothered. Nothing haunts a person more than the realization that they never had the power they thought they did. My friends, let's expose the biggest weakness of an ego-driven person. They need to feel important. Their entire sense of self is built on the belief that they matter, that they have an impact, that they are someone in your life. But now they're faced with a reality they never prepared for. You don't care anymore. And that is sending them into a tailspin. Picture this: you're on a stage and they're in the audience expecting a show. They're waiting for the moment when you break down, when you call out, when you acknowledge them in some way. But instead, you walk off the stage. No dramatic exit, no last words, just silence. And now they're left sitting there, confused, frustrated, and worst of all, completely powerless. See, when someone believes they have a grip on your emotions, they start to feel invincible. They think they can push and pull, disappear and return, and still have the same effect on you. And for a while, maybe they did. Maybe they ignored your texts just to see if you'd reach out first. Maybe they strung you along with breadcrumbs of attention just to keep you hooked. Maybe they thought, no matter how much time passed, they could always snap their fingers and you'd be there. But they never considered the possibility that one day you'd stop reacting altogether. And my friends, that is what's breaking them right now. At first, they'll act unfazed. They'll tell themselves, good, they finally stopped bothering me. They'll post more, laugh louder, surround themselves with distractions. But deep down, they're waiting for the moment when your silence cracks, when you slip and show them they still have a place in your mind. Because as long as they believe you still care, they can convince themselves they won. But what happens when that moment never comes? That's when the real panic sets in. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And right now, their ego is experiencing a kind of death, the death of control, the death of their influence over you, the death of the power they thought they had. Because the moment they realize that they are no longer the center of your thoughts, that you are no longer waiting, that you are no longer bothered, they are forced to confront a truth they never wanted to face. They were not as important as they thought. And let me tell you, nothing bruises an ego like irrelevance. But I know how this goes. I know there's a voice in the back of your mind whispering, what if they really don't care? What if they actually moved on? My friends, let me make this crystal clear. If they truly moved on, they wouldn't have expected you to react in the first place. They wouldn't have played mind games, kept tabs on you, or put on a show to convince themselves that they're doing fine. Because people who are truly indifferent, they don't need an audience. And that's why right now they are struggling. At first, they tried to convince themselves you were still holding on. They assumed you'd reach out eventually, that you'd make it known they still mattered. But when that didn't happen, they started searching for signs, checking your social media, asking mutual friends about you, replaying old conversations in their head. And when they find nothing, that's when the questions start. Wait, why haven't they reached out? Did I miscalculate? Have they actually moved on? And my friends, let me tell you, that realization will keep them up at night. Because when someone expects you to suffer in their absence, but instead you thrive, that's when the tables turn. That's when the doubts start creeping in. That's when they start feeling exactly what they wanted you to feel. And by the time they realize what they lost, you'll be too far gone to care. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And that's exactly what you've done. You have freed yourself. You have walked away. You have shown them, without saying a single word, that their grip on you is gone. And that is what's truly destroying them. So do me a favor, drop this in the comments. My silence is my power, and they feel it. Say it, own it, let them feel it. Because if you think they're struggling now, just wait. Just wait until they realize that no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, they will never shake you again. Stay with me. This only gets better.